to the cloud. Recording in progress. There we go. All right. So welcome again. I'm Carrie Sipp. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships for PACES Connection. And this is our newest initiative, and we're thrilled to have you here with us. I want to share a few words about PACES Connection as we get started. We invite you to please become a member. PACES Connection members can connect with like-minded individuals around the world, people who want to prevent and heal trauma, people who want to help support resilience in individuals and families and communities. We have extensive resources and a comprehensive online collection of trauma-informed and healing-centered resources and tools and abilities for you all to create communities in your own community. To that end, we invite you to start the movement. If you're not muted, we ask you to please mute. Please mute. Thank you so much. We are about starting a movement at PACES Connection and our partners in this endeavor. And community healing happens in a community. So we ask you to connect with a PACES Connection community that already exists, or think about starting your own. Maybe some of these book clubs will actually become communities. And we also provide consulting services to help organizations create and grow and sustain PACES Connection communities, or become trauma informed, or learn about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which are hot topics, and rightly so these days. PACES Connection has more than 57,000 members. We are a social network, the social network for the PACES movement, and we share our best practices and your best practices based on PACES science. And about those communities, we're a community of communities. We have more than 400 geographic-based communities and more than 30 interest-based communities. So these are cities, states, counties, countries, and interest-based communities. And so we invite you to look at all of the resources that we have. We actually have a wonderful 16-hour course called Creating Resilient Communities. And Natalie, my partner, will put that in the chat a little bit later, that if y'all are interested in starting a community, this is how you do it. So this is the official start of our book study webinar. And I'll tell you that it started with a book. And I'm going to tell y'all a quick story. But 4 years ago, Oprah Winfrey and Bruce Perry were on 60 Minutes together. And I was the Southeastern Regional Director of, community facilitator then. And we got the news that this was going to happen. I got really excited. It was on the night of my birthday. I won't tell you which one. And I said, oh my goodness, we've got to get press releases put together. We've got to get tweets ready. We've got to get all this together, because once they're on 60 Minutes, everybody's going to want to know about then ACEs science, standing for Adverse Childhood Experience, as opposed to now PACES science, which stands for Positive and Adverse Childhood Experiences. Would somebody please mute? Please mute. Find yourself, please mute. So anyway, I was very excited about this, and I thought, oh man, March the 8th, it's going to be like an incredible just barrage of people wanting to know about ACEs Connection. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. But good things were happening. And what was happening was that Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey decided after that interview to write a book together, and that it's this book, What Happened to You. So 4 years later, I'm realizing the dream of there being a lot about PACES Connection, because Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Perry had that wonderful interview. So this endeavor is the work of one of our community.
Carrie, you are muted.
I'm sorry, I don't know how that happened, but I'm glad to be here. So you can hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So under the auspices of the Children's Trust Fund Alliance, Georgia Essentials for Childhood and Prevent Child Abuse Georgia. Some great things have happened around this book. One of them was that Deborah Chosewood, our partner and one of the community managers for our Georgia PACES Connection website, wanted to start a book study. And so she did. So this is the slide that shows you who our partners are on this project. Kara Georgi from the Children's Trust Fund Alliance, Chloe Corian from Children's Trust Fund Alliance, Teresa Raphael from Children's Trust Fund Alliance, Deborah Chosewood, who had this brilliant idea, shared it on LinkedIn one night. I saw her LinkedIn post and said, we need to do this. And Deborah helped us put it together. So Deborah Chosewood from Georgia Essentials for Childhood. And then our other partners who are not in this photograph, but are with us today, Jennifer Lee Stein from Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, and Maureen Hollaker and Norma McReynolds from Children's Trust Fund Alliance. Now you'll notice on the fourth row down, there's an arrow, and that's Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Bruce Perry's partner in writing this fabulous book. And she showed up at the last session of Georgia Reads, which was very exciting. So when we all got together for the first time back in February to start talking about planning this event, something led me to start this meeting, that meeting with this quote, because I love this quote. And it is, each of us must come to care about everyone else's children. We must recognize that the welfare of our children and grandchildren is intimately linked to the welfare of all other people's children. After all, when one of our children needs life-saving surgery, someone else's child will perform it. If one of our children is threatened or harmed by violence, someone else's child will be responsible for the violent act. The good life for our children can be secured only if a good life is also secured for all other people's children. And that is a quote by Lillian Katz. And after I read it, I find that our good friends at the Children's Trust Fund Alliance start their meetings with that quote. So that was kind of a holy moment. And so our partners who share best practices with us, and especially in this project right here, Children's Trust Fund Alliance, Essentials for Childhood, Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, and my beloved partner here, Natalie Adaj from PACES Connection. So we're going to say, how can you use the information gained from what we're doing now and the book to create connections in your community? This is, of course, our invitation to you as you learn how to start a book study. Start a book study. Get connected to your PACES Connection community, join PACES Connection. And we're thrilled to let you know that we started this series with a conversation with author Bruce Perry, and that was on June the 28th. And we had, as I said, 4,000 people registered for that event. We ended up with about 1,300 people. And we're going to post the link to that video, that incredible conversation. Dr. Perry said some groundbreaking, really important things during that webinar, and I believe you'll really enjoy watching it. And so we'll share the link to that on the Children's Trust Fund Alliance website. And with that, I will turn it over almost to, oh yeah, that's right, duh. We wanted to share a little clip of this wonderful webinar we had with Dr. Perry on the 28th. And so I will start that and hope that it works, or here we go.
For asking me to be part of this. Oprah and I are extremely excited about this opportunity. We, I don't know, some of you may know a little bit about Oprah, but she never does anything unless there's an absolutely clear intention. And the intention of writing this book was to do basically what you're doing right now, is to help a new group of people learn more about the importance of early childhood, the power of stress, distress, and trauma to shape us, and the hopefulness that resides in the capacity to connect with other people.
So there you have it, straight from Dr. Perry, that we have hopefulness, we have the ability to connect, and we're going to ask you to please register now or soon for these upcoming events. As I said, when we started this endeavor, a new PACES connection, we didn't have the capacity to know how to lead people in learning how to do book studies, but our partners at the Children's Trust Fund Alliance sure did, and our partners with Georgia Essentials for Childhood. So they are going to, and Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, they're going to lead book study leader trainings. So if you don't know how to do it, they're going to help you. We're going to learn a lot now, but they're also going to support you with leader check-ins. And then when this is over, we will have a wonderful Strengthening Families Protective Factors framework overview by the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. And you'll need to register for each one of these events separately and then close out with a book study leader check-in with our colleagues at the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. So again, we are deeply grateful to Jennifer Stein from Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, Deborah Chosewood, the Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services, Gabrielle Hawkins Stewart from Georgia Family Connection Partnership, Kara Giorgi, thank you, from Children's Trust Fund Alliance, Chloe Corian, who's kind of the mother of a lot of this, as you'll find out, Aaron Thomas from the Georgia Parent Advisory Council, and Samantha Moore Valentine from the Georgia Parent Advisory Council, Colleen Puckett from the Georgia Parent Advisory Council. And so these are our presenters. You saw the other people who were involved in this a little bit earlier, but these are the presenters that you're going to see. And so with that, I will bow out and say, take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you, Carrie. Happy to be here today. I get to kind of just kick it off and just share about the spark that we had. And being with Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, we are a state chapter of Prevent Child Abuse America. And it was April 2021 where in one of their newsletters, I was excited to see the release of Dr. Bruce Perry's book, and then of course the co-author of Oprah. And what that author event was then was where Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell were hosting Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey on a Thursday evening. It was where you could pay for the event, watch this, and then they would mail you the book when it was released. And so I was extremely excited. Of course, anything to do with Oprah. She's always has wonderful life lessons that we can all take away from them. But over the years, I've also marveled at Dr. Bruce Perry. And anybody that's heard him speak can attest to the fact that he is able to explain very complex concepts in a way that even my brain can understand and can pull away the importance of what he's sharing and saying. So I immediately signed up. One of our key partners at Prevent Child Abuse Georgia is the Division of Family and Children's Services, their prevention community support section. And my co-partner in a lot of these things is Deborah Chosewood. And so through our conversations, we both love to read. We both are in book clubs. I shared with her about the event and she too immediately signed up. We were both watching the event, texting each other, and the very next morning over my first cup of coffee of the day, there was Deborah's text saying, hey, we have got to figure out a way how to launch a book club for the state of Georgia over this book. And Deborah Chosewood, she makes things happen. And so I was just absolutely delighted to come alongside her and join with this wonderful initiative that we took on as Georgia Reads. We had some other great state leads that you can read about in our discussion guide, but also just super impressed with the response that we got from Dr. Bruce Perry and his efforts in improving our resource guide, our discussion guide, and then just being supportive of the efforts here in Georgia. We had a great time with book clubs. We're still holding them. So we're just really pleased that you're here to learn more today. And I'm going to pass it over to Deborah Chosewood. She is the Deputy Section Director of Prevention Community Support Section with Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services. So I hope you'll enjoy today.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm not sure who's driving the slides, but if you could just go back a couple, I think we skipped, there we go. So thank you. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm Deborah Chosewood. I'm the Deputy Director for Prevention and Community Support, which is Georgia's Children's Trust Fund. We are also, as Carrie mentioned earlier, we are one of the leads of the Georgia PACES Connection website. And we also are key partners. We're one of the 3 stakeholders and backbone organizations, along with Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, of Georgia's Essentials for Childhood initiative. And so all of those things sort of came together to create this event. So our office, just very briefly, we have a variety of state and federal funding streams dedicated to primarily child abuse and neglect prevention, but we also have 2 federally funded adolescent pregnancy prevention programs that we oversee. And so we use all of our funding streams to provide funding for community-based organizations, but we also do a lot of work with organizations like Prevent Child Abuse Georgia and provide them funding, and then partner with them on all of the child abuse and neglect prevention work. That is very similar to all the other members of the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. So we are Georgia's Children's Trust Fund. We are also a member of the overall Children's Trust Fund Alliance. And I actually sit on the board of directors currently for the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. So next slide. These are the partners. So as Jennifer mentioned in her introduction, it started with an idea. She invited me to the Oprah Winfrey Dr. Perry event, and then the idea was born, and we set about doing this. We initially reached out to all of the members of the Georgia Essentials for Childhood who we thought might be interested in partnering with us on this. And so you see them listed there. We also wanted somebody to host this for us. And so I knew somebody at Gwinnett County Libraries, which is one of our metropolitan Atlanta counties, and reached out to them. And so they hosted the event with us. They also had several events locally in their county library. So I encourage you all in your states, if you decide to bring this back to your states, to try to partner with your library systems. We have a library system here in Georgia. It's Athens Clarke County Libraries, which actually is one of the first libraries that became trauma informed a few years ago, and has done a lot of work with our PACES Connection work as well in Georgia. So I definitely encourage including your library systems in this area. Next slide. So one of the first things we did once we decided that we wanted to put together this Georgia Reads, this was our first inaugural Georgia Reads event, is we looked at Dr. Perry's website, and we saw that he had a discussion guide. It's pictured there. He had a discussion guide that was developed by the Neurosequential Network, but the guide was very specific to coaches and educators. It was a great guide, had great discussion questions, but it was very focused on coaches and educators. And we really wanted this to be a broad audience. We wanted to reach the workforce, as somebody put in the chat earlier. We wanted to reach business owners. We wanted to reach all of those community members that help support parents as they parent. And so we really wanted it to be a more broad discussion guide. So we took some of the questions from there and adapted them to a broader audience. And then we also developed some Georgia specific questions that linked with some of the other initiatives happening in our state, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then we also linked to resources in our state. So if you wanted to learn more about ACEs, that you could attend one of our Connections Matter trainings, for example, or if you wanted to learn more about early brain development, you could attend a Better Brains for Babies training. So we created those links to tie back all of the themes of the book to other efforts that were happening in our state. Most especially our state's child abuse and neglect prevention plan, which I'll talk about again in a second. The book discussion guide, I'm so sorry. The book discussion guide that we created is pictured there. In order to receive the discussion guide, you had to register on our landing page that you were going to host a book club, and then we provided you with the discussion guide. And that was just our way of trying to track how broadly this was happening across our state. Next. So we had a series of events. As Jennifer mentioned, and as Carrie mentioned, Oprah came to our Parent Advisory Council meeting. I'm going to allow Kara and Chloe to talk more about that in a minute. So we didn't quite, when we first decided we wanted to do this Georgia Reads, we didn't quite have our discussion guide ready yet. And Chloe really just wanted to do this with our Parent Advisory Council. And so they developed their own guide, which they're going to talk about. It's a wonderful, gorgeous guide. And so they'll talk about that some more. We also launched a webinar in November of 2021. So last year we had hosted a webinar that just sort of talked about the themes of the book and talked about those resources that I mentioned earlier. So all of those partners presented a little bit about their response to the book and what resources they had within their organizations that they could refer folks to. Then we have the Georgia Parent Advisory Council Book Club, which the Alliance will talk about shortly. And then we had the author event with Dr. Perry in January of 2022. Dr. Melissa Merrick, who is the Executive Director for Prevent Child Abuse America, Dr. Perry sits on her board. And so we reached out to her to ask her if she would be willing to moderate the event for us, and she did. The event was on the Georgia-Alabama football championship night, and we were dreading it because it started at 7 and the game started at 8, and we thought, oh my gosh, nobody's going to come. And people came and stayed even after kickoff, stayed for the full event. So that was wonderful. And then we, using the discussion guide, we offered opportunities for local parents, for local faith leaders, for providers of services throughout the state to volunteer to host a discussion guide using host a book club discussion using our discussion guide. And so we had over 50 of those that were documented on the website. We do know that some other book clubs popped up using the guide that maybe didn't register on the website as we had requested, but documented, we know that over 50 book clubs took place. We had also our organizations all each hosted some virtual events, especially around April, Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month. Jennifer Stein and PCA Georgia did some in-person events with students at Georgia State University. So there were a variety of events that we hosted throughout, starting in November and until now, currently. Next slide. So this is just an example of the invitation that we dropped this slide in every meeting that we went to through that time period, every presentation we did. We just kind of talked about the events that were happening and if you wanted to become a book club host. that we developed a landing page. So we had a web page that QR code would take you to the web page. That tiny URL would also take you to that web page, so that you could learn more about the book, learn more about the events, learn more about the resources that were included in the guide. And then you could sign up to be a book club host. So again, if you're wanting to do this broadly in your communities, I would encourage you to have some sort of landing page where you can direct traffic. Next slide. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we tried to tie the book back to in our state is our state's child abuse and neglect prevention plan. And that is coordinated by Georgia's Essentials for Childhood initiative. And so a lot of the themes of the book are very similar and align very nicely with the objectives and the strategies that are in our state plan. Our state plan launched in 2020, and then we started this book, Georgia Reads Initiative, in 2021. So it really was building upon a lot of the work that we were already doing. And next slide. This is one of the quotes from the book that I found especially poignant in our times. This is a challenge. This is the challenge for our modern world. How can we create community when we are so mobile, so screened up, so disconnected? It's a major challenge for creating a healthy future. How can we ensure connectedness and a sense of safety and belonging for everyone? So our Georgia Essentials for Childhood initiative, and also our agency specifically, we had launched a campaign in 2019 called Belonging for Hope. And so the themes of that were that communities really needed to come together to create a sense of belonging for all parents and all children, in order for children to really thrive, and really promoting a community responsibility for the families that live within them, and creating a responsibility for making sure that everybody creates a nurturing community. And so this is our campaign website, belongingforhope.org. And the themes, again, the themes of the book so much just addressed exactly what we've been trying to promote through this work. It ties in very nicely with everything that we do through Essentials, and also through our PACES Connection community. So again, encouraging that community responsibility is really what we're trying to do here with these book clubs. Next slide. And as an example of some of the great work that happened in Georgia, we have Gabrielle Stewart is going to talk a little bit about the book club that she facilitated.
Thanks, Deborah. So much like Deborah just mentioned, our region is working on a grant-funded project from Resilient Georgia, and it's all about helping folks better understand the impact of trauma and poverty on our communities. And we felt like in that trauma work, this book was a great way to help people better understand and to start conversations about what it meant to be a trauma-informed community. And so I just wanted to share a couple of things that we learned from doing this. We broke our book study into 3 sessions. We did them a week apart for an hour and a half each session. And what we realized was you need a good team. You need 2 or 3 people who are comfortable in front of a room, able to carry a conversation and help facilitate. And we needed more than one person because life happens, and inevitably somebody in the group will have something come up the day of a discussion. And so having some backup is always helpful. And also having several people who have read, are ready to join the conversation, and have thought through the questions is helpful in keeping the conversation going. We realize that you got to prepare, you got to advertise early and often. So like Deborah said, we were putting this slide everywhere we did a presentation. It was all over our Facebook, and we really were trying to drive people there to registration as much as possible. And we opened registration for about 2 months, and we closed it 2 weeks before our first session because we wanted to ensure participants had enough time to read the book and really be prepared for that conversation. So we made sure that they had the questions in advance. So we took the Georgia Reads study guide. We broke the book down into 3 sections and then chose about 3 to 4 questions for every section. And we shared those questions in the agendas with participants in advance so that they could be prepared for the discussion. After the very first session, what we realized was that we needed to start out by asking folks what resonated most with them. So that was a change that we made midway and we did for the last 2 sessions, but that sort of helped bring some themes for that section of the book to the forefront, and then helped the facilitators sort of circle back to those things as we answered questions and went through the discussion. We realized that having our own answers prepared in advance helped and made sure that we were able to keep the conversation going. We were able to reference snippets from the book and really help relate back to the book and what we were talking about in those discussions. But most importantly, and I think the thing that made the greatest impact, was we worked really hard in advance and during those meetings to create a safe space for open discussion. Although it was primarily professionals that were part of our group, we recognize that this is touchy subject matter, can pull on your heart, it can bring up things from the past that you might not have been prepared to discuss with folks you didn't know. And so we made it clear in advance and then at the start of every meeting that folks should take care of themselves. They should join in the discussion as they saw fit. We didn't insist anybody keep their cameras on, but we encouraged it and we allowed folks to take a break if they needed to. And then part of having more than one facilitator meant that if we saw that somebody was getting dysregulated or that the subject matter was a little bit hard, we were able to chat them personally and offer some support during that conversation. And so although everyone there was a professional, the feedback we got at the end of each session that it was really helpful for them in understanding themselves and being attuned when they're working with other folks, but it also helped them better understand and be more compassionate about the folks that they were working with on a day-to-day basis. And so I see, Rebecca, your question in the chat. We did not host any in-person sessions because we're a regional group and we were pulling folks from about 14 different counties. We did all of ours virtually. But I think the same thing applies if you do it in person, really creating that safe space. And there's an opportunity in person where you could actually tag one person to sit with anybody who is feeling a little uncomfortable or dysregulated and really give them that one-on-one attention if they needed it. So that is the lesson learned from building a region of resilience. And Deborah, I'll turn things back over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Gabrielle. This was just really an incredible use of the guide in Georgia. So I'm going to be turning it over to Kara and Chloe in just a second, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about Georgia's Parent Advisory Council. I already mentioned the fact that we wanted the Parent Advisory Council to read the book and participate in Georgia Reads with us. We have partnered since the development of our Parent Advisory Council. We have partnered with the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. They provide us assistance and coordination of our Georgia PAC. And so in a meeting, we had talked about that we wanted the Alliance to purchase the books using our funds, of course, but to purchase the books for the Parent Advisory Council. And then, as I mentioned, Chloe volunteered to lead the Parent Advisory Council's book club. So they're going to talk some more about that great work. These are our members. We have 14 regions in our agency, in our state. And so we are hoping to have at least one representative from each of the 14 regions. We're kind of missing a couple of regions right now, but we are working to fill those slots. And next slide. And so our Parent Advisory Council really was developed to support our agency specifically, and specifically in the field of prevention. So some of them are parents who have lived experience, that have been through the child welfare system, but some of them are parents who participated maybe in some prevention programming. And so we have a combination. We have some foster parents who are also part of our Parent Advisory Council. We're looking for some kin caregivers. We don't quite have one of those yet. We're also looking for some dads. As you noticed, probably it's all women. We are definitely looking for some fathers to participate. So really it's about parent partnership. And so this book club guide, as you'll hear from Carrie, Kara, and Chloe, is a great way that we're able to share between staff and the Parent Advisory Council members. Staff were invited to attend the meetings as well. And, so it was an opportunity for us to share that even though we're staff, we've been through it too. We've had experiences in our lives that were discussed in those meetings. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of build some camaraderie with the others that you participate in the book club with. And so I believe I am turning it over now to Kara Georgi and Chloe Corian, who are with the Children's Trust Fund Alliance and who developed this wonderful book club guide.
Great. Thank you so much, Deborah. And one of the biggest things that we felt as Chloe and I were working on this is that it was really important for you all to first hear from some of the parents who actually got to be a part of our book club. And so today we have 3 of those Georgia PAC parents here with us. And so I'd like to open it up first to Erin Thomas to kick us off.
Thank you so much, Kara. Hold on. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. So my name is Erin Thomas, and I am representing Region 2 on the Georgia Parent Advisory Council. And yes, I got to meet Oprah virtually. That was super amazing, but believe it or not, that was not my most favorite part. My most favorite part of the book club was just the camaraderie and the feeling of belonging and the sense of connection that I got even over Zoom virtually. Finding my people, as I call them, others who have been through similar experiences, just really allowed me to open myself up and to grow in ways that helped me develop more in my own personal life with how I interacted with people in my job, just random strangers on the street. It was just absolutely an incredible experience. And another thing that I appreciated was you did not have to follow a really stringent, rigid schedule or curriculum in order to benefit from the program, from the book club. We were able to kind of have some flexibility. And, for the facilitators, the conversation kind of guided itself, but somehow magically it came back to what happened to you and related to the book. So it was kind of a magical experience in that way. And if I were to offer any advice to someone who is thinking about joining the book club, to go for it. That's the best advice I can give. I really was hesitant at first, thinking that it would be too much for me to share those personal experiences, but it was just incredible. And I went away with friendships and bonds that I never thought were possible. And if you are thinking of hosting a book club, I did throw this in as well. The biggest advice that I would have would be to remain flexible. You don't have to go word for word by the guide. The guide is phenomenal. It's amazing, but you'll also find, like I said, that those conversations guide themselves. So there's not a lot of pressure to get it just right. It'll be just right. And one last thing, we are experiencing some horrible weather here. My apologies for the thunder. If you do come across something in the guide that you feel maybe doesn't apply to you, or it's an experience that maybe you haven't experienced firsthand, I wouldn't skip it. I had the tendency to skip it, but I found that one thing that we all identified with was emotion. Like human emotion is something that we all could identify with. So even if you haven't experienced the trauma that's shown in the book, in some cases, sit with those feelings and emotions that maybe your peers and your participants are feeling, because I can assure you that you'll all find common ground there.
Thanks so much.
I believe I turn it over to Samantha Moore Valentine, who's also a member of the Parent Advisory Council. My apologies. Samantha, the floor is all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. Yes, the weather here is absolutely horrible. However, I'm just delighted to see everyone come together and primarily centered around this one book. For me, the experience was so personal because, you know, now we can no longer deny how thoroughly entangled our private lives, our family lives, and the systems that we work with all mesh together. And this book allowed all of us to have a safe space and take off the titles and get down to how does what happened to me affect how I'm raising my children, how I show up at work daily, as well as how has it affected the passion and compassion that I show up with when I come to sit at a table or I am deemed with the responsibility of representing someone. So one of the greatest things was knowing that, hey, this is not a retaliation space. This is a safe space where we're learning in transparency. That was the biggest takeaway from me. By serving as a part of Georgia Parent Advisory Council, the unit is prevention. So it automatically had me thinking to myself, how does this align with the work that I am doing? And how does it allow me to define where I fit in? Sometimes our careers just become a day in and day out job. However, by understanding what you've gone through, even if it's an experience you have not had yourself personally, I guarantee in this book, you know someone that has had that experience. So whether it's the family, economy, the things going on, government entities, education, religion, or our medical community coming together, there is a place for you if you decide to foster a book study. And the sky is the limit. Don't limit yourself to saying, oh, I'm just going to do this book study with my colleagues. Hey, you can go to your local representatives. I had the experience of stepping out the box and saying, you know what? I'm going to go to our local councilman. I'm going to talk to the police department because maybe there's some undefined things or trauma that may have occurred that will help you put into place programs that will allow a more compassionate response to anyone, even if you're responding to a family that has domestic violence going on. I'm just so excited that there's light at the end of the tunnel and all my tears were not in vain. I felt okay, absolutely crying with the group that we had, and the sky is the limit for what you could do. If you plan to have a book study, do not limit it to just the individuals that you know. It will be a great way to transform and have a better perspective and understanding of each of the communities so that you can truly come together and make strategic planning, one that is out the box and will really motivate and uplift and help you get to know the individuals in your community. I'm so grateful to be here. And next, I am going to turn it over so that you'll hear from one of our other Georgia PAC members, Colleen. I'm so excited. And again, it's just been a great experience. And hey, if you don't want to read the book, download the audio book. I played it the entire ride because I was afraid to bring up some of those conversations with my own parent. But guess what? I know my mom was listening and she got the book right after. So again, jump in. There's no right or wrong way to do this work, but as long as you do the work, that's all that matters. Have a great afternoon.
Beautifully said, Samantha and Erin. Whoa, that is called parent leadership in the house. I love it. And I love all the stuff in the chat. There is no definition of community, you all. You get to decide who that community is, like Samantha was encouraging you to think and dream of. But when we think about parent leadership and how do we that parent voice really come in. Colleen Puckett unfortunately was not able to join us and had a family matter that needed to take priority. And one of the things that we really always say is first is family. And so we are practicing that live as we speak with parent leadership. And so I am going to share a video clip that Colleen did for us as we launched and first released our guide for this book club. And so I'm going to hit the play, and if Deborah, you could give me a thumbs up if you hear the sound.
Hey everybody. I don't even know what to say now. Samantha and Aaron just totally took all the words out of my mouth. It was beautiful. So for me, I came into book club probably a little bit more hesitant than I probably should have been. You know, I was so focused on one trauma and one trauma only of mine, which was the removal of my kids and them being in foster care. And I thought that was the big trauma that I needed to process. And as I started to go through book club, I started to learn it's not just about that one big trauma. It's what else have I experienced throughout my life, and how has every single step through my life impacted how I am today and impact me as a parent. And for me, when I was first reading through this, it was not just how do I process my own trauma, but how do I process the trauma that my children have gone through. And then I decided to read it again because I found out that I was pregnant, and this just had this amazing, almost a parenting book in some sorts of like what I could be doing presently while I'm pregnant to impact my child in the most positive way that I possibly could. And so for me, like we all had moments that we would come into book club and just be emotional and just say, today is not my day, but I'm here. And by golly, the time that we would spend together and we would leave book club, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. We would all just be like, this is what we needed. We needed this time together. We needed this time to connect with others on a level that we don't get to on a day-to-day basis. For me, reading the book impacted me on how I interact with my children, my family, my friends, those who I walk through the grocery store and interact with. You know, how we handle traffic, how I just handle my patients differently, solely because of book club and reading this book. I've connected with the parents that I work alongside with in ways that I hadn't before. I have my own personal experience of walking my journey through my child welfare story, but my other parents, they have other traumas, they have other experiences. And this really gave me an open eye of different ways that I can be able to connect with them and to be there for them. For me, book club became family. They are there forever. And just preparing for this, I went on to bed rest and I almost didn't want to join the prep meeting to get prepared for this. And I was just not in the mood. But I was like, you're going to do it. You're going to get on and be with these people. And I did. And I'm so thankful I did. They were there to support me through all my tears and get me where I am today and to just uplift me, which I really, really appreciate. And that's a connection I don't think we wouldn't have ever gotten to if we hadn't had this experience with one another. I would say if you're going to go into a book club and with this book, I would just say, be prepared for growth. Be prepared for amazing growth that you're going to experience. It's emotional, but it's a good emotion. You know, I always said when I hate unpacking when I come home from trips, I despise it. It is like the most stressful thing for me. But once I do it, I'm so excited. I'm so thankful. My room looks better. I feel better. I'm not living out of a suitcase. And to me, that's kind of like what it is to unpack our traumas. It's going to be tough. We're not going to want to do it. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be dirty. But the moment that we finally get to that point where it is done and we are putting our suitcase away, it's the best feeling in the entire world. And so that would be my biggest advice, is just be prepared for that growth, be prepared for those emotional moments, but to know that when you're doing these book clubs, that you're surrounding yourself with people who are there for the same reasons that you are, for growth, for connection, for friendship. And so I just am so excited for this. And thank you, Chloe and Kara and Norma and everybody for putting in all of your love and effort And Dr. Perry, thank you so much for putting this book together with Oprah. It's definitely has been life-changing.
And so why we felt that was so important to share with all of you is because we wanted you to hear the different perspectives from Erin, Samantha, and Colleen. And one of the, I think the most beautiful things about the work that we're doing right now with PACES is truly the partnerships. We're not telling you there's only one way to do a book study. We're telling you that there's the Georgia Reads Guide. We're telling you that there's our guide. We're telling you also that there's even an educator's guide and other information, because our hope is that you're going to be able to do exactly what Colleen said and do some of that unpacking and have an opportunity to have that growth opportunity. For me, myself, my name is Kara Georgi, and I work with the Children's Trust Fund Alliance as their Parent Partnership Associate. And I would say that my work with our organization has been my real big opportunity for growth, of truly coming to understand what prevention means and what it means to really, truly work in partnership in communities with parents, with organizational partners, and how do we truly come together to have conversations, as Deborah shared, where it isn't just the parents in one room and staff in another, but all of us together in the space. One of the things as we've developed the guide that we are sharing with you today from the Alliance is it wasn't done. We literally built the plane as we flew it. And that was in large part due to the dedication that Chloe had for finishing out her degree, but most importantly, for not finishing her degree with just a project that she can one day remember, but really finishing her project in one way that I really don't consider a project anymore. I consider it a gift to the community. And so with that, I'm going to pass it to Chloe, who will get us going and be launching our first poll.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chloe Corey, and I'm so excited to be here today, and also so excited to see almost 200 of you that care about this book on today's webinar. So before we begin, I just want to ask if Natalie can please launch our poll, so we can just get an idea of, have you heard of the Children's Trust Fund Alliance Book Club Guide? Okay, we're going to give people a few minutes to respond to that. And so far, it's looking like most of you have not, and that's great because I'm going to be spending the next few minutes talking about what's in it and give you a little bit of a brief description of the guide. All right, if you can go to the next slide, please. So, like I said, I'm so excited to be here today and sharing with you this resource. So this was what was supposed to be just my master's capstone project for graduate school, and has become like so much more that I can even imagine. And I'm so thankful for the Children's Trust Fund Alliance and Kara and Norma McReynolds, our graphic designer, who have helped create this beautiful, fantastic resource that's now being shared nationally. And I'm just so thankful for everyone involved in this project. So if you can go to the next slide, please, and I'll explain a little bit more about like what's in this guide. So in this guide, we have chapter summaries. So like when we did the book club with the parents in the Georgia Parent Advisory Council, not everyone could be there every night, and that's okay. We don't expect parents with their busy schedules to always be able to attend book club. So we included chapter summaries that we made sure to read at the beginning of each book club night to make sure that everybody felt included in the conversation and could really feel like they're a part of it. So in the Alliance's guide are reflection journals with questions and lined paper that you can write in your responses about how you're feeling and reflect on the questions that are in the guide. And we also have coloring pages because rhythm, as Dr. Perry mentions, is very important, and coloring is a way you can use rhythm. So, and who doesn't love to color? So we hope that you are able to use our guide and can enjoy some of these resources. So additionally, in the book club guide, yes, thank you, if we could, okay. There's different levels of questions. So we realized that trauma is something very hard to talk about. And sometimes not everyone is always ready to dive deep. So we have kind of introduction icebreaker questions, reflection questions, and questions that really dive deep. And you can really kind of deal with some of that trauma you've been handling. And also we realize trauma is very difficult. So at the end of each chapter, we have a quote that kind of gives hope. And in our book club each night, we would end the night with a quote to leave hope for parents, to feel hopeful about the work that they're doing and to lighten the mood. And if Kara wants to talk about protective factors in the next slide.
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. And I think one of the most important things with hope, and as Chloe said, as we were talking about trauma and processing trauma, it was important too that we knew other local resources to point people to should trauma come up for them that was something bigger than the space of our book club. And so being prepared with those resources, as well as resources, as you see, there's a spot where it's resources to support that were tied in with just different takeaways that the parents could kind of dive in for more information. And one of those biggest things that we thought were really important to elevate throughout was the protective factors framework. And so here's a slide that shows a wonderful graphic that we have through our Bringing the Protective Factors to Life in Your Work training that you're going to be learning more about with Maureen Holliker if you sign up for that training that's going to be happening on Tuesday, August 30th. It's called Moving Families from Surviving to Thriving. And one of the things that I truly believe about this is this was something that was on like tables when I would go out for community cafe conversations in my community. I knew they were important because the providers kept pointing to them and wanted me to be able to talk about them. But I'll be honest, I was scared to talk about them. I felt like they were these big things that I just couldn't wrap my head around as a mom. And so it was taking time to really truly study and learn about the protective factors framework and doing the online training that the Alliance offers that's for free where you can get credits, and also taking the opportunity to do the live in-person training where all of these 5 things, parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, concrete support in times of need, and social emotional competence of children, stopped being just words. They literally came to life and became like little lifelines that on my hardest parenting days, I now have tools in my toolbox, as one of my parent friends would say, that I can go to and say, it's a really hard day today. What protective factor do I need right now the most to help me get to the next parenting moment with my child, or to help me take that big deep breath I really need to take, but I'm afraid to take, or to take that mommy break that I really need to take. And so having that experience as a mom myself and seeing how knowing this information really truly changed how we navigated some pretty intense family matters ourselves, let me know that, like, as Chloe and I were developing it, this had to be included. And so Chloe and I were like, we've got to put something in about these protective factors. So I'm curious, let's have Natalie launch another poll. How familiar are all of you with the protective factors? I can tell you there are a couple of my dear colleagues on from my home state of New York, and they will tell you I am no longer afraid to talk about these protective factors. If there is a way they come out, you can now ask also Samantha, Erin, and Colleen. They'll say, oh yeah, Carol will find a way to weave that into a conversation. It's not even work for her anymore. It's just natural. And I love it. I'm seeing you all coming in, that there's a good group of you who do, but there are some who are unfamiliar. So I encourage you, sign up for that training with Maureen. Maureen is an amazing trainer. And like I said, she and the training team and the materials make this material come to life. Help us. It informs our work. It informs our way of operating, living, and being. And to be honest, Maureen's just super awesome. So you got to check it out, sign up for that training. And for those of you that aren't sure, don't worry about that. I have Natalie sharing those results. It looks like the vast majority of you are familiar. And so I'm hoping that those of you who are familiar with these understand the importance of why the protective factors had to come into play. And so to kind of make sure that we're all level setting, that's why we asked this awesome poll. I wanted to help you understand why it really had to be a part of book club. When we're talking about trauma and we're talking about hard things, Chloe and I, we had to almost go on this growth journey with our book club, but also with each other. And we knew that it's hard to start from a place of talking about trauma. Like, that's not a natural place where we start conversations. We also knew the importance of elevating strengths. And so we knew that the protective factors would help us to achieve that. And so they really were the foundation that we worked up from. And so we knew as we read each chapter, how do we tie this into protective factors? How do we take the brain science that Dr. Perry is giving us, the stories Oprah's sharing to make it come to life, and put it together with protective factors to help the parents as we journey through book club together. We then figured out, let's make sure that it's a part of some of the questions we ask. Let's also make sure that we're doing like what we are with you today of level setting, giving some concrete resources about the protective factors to each of the parents. Here's a unique thing that if you're doing it virtually, I'd encourage you to do. You know how sometimes there's a lot of people who register, but they don't always show up? The people who don't show up, share the resources with them. Because we did that with the Georgia PAC. If a parent couldn't come, Chloe sent them a recap. This is what we did. Here's what the resources were. Here's our positive quote. And I will tell you that we heard from the parents that were kind of behind the scenes, and that made a huge difference for them. It impacted them in a huge way. So don't forget about the people who register but can't show up. They can make a huge difference too. We also really made sure to explicitly call them out as we went through the guide. And to us, we saw them as the ribbon of hope. And so you'll note in our guide where there's a little paintbrush, anywhere that is where we see protective factors kind of coming to life or coming into action. And we tried to make sure that that was included for each chapter. So that way, as participants went on this journey, they would be able to feel how that would flow for them. And now I'm going to pass it to Chloe to talk about our really special night.
So in our first book club meeting with the Georgia PAC, we all were talking about how amazing it would be if we could have the opportunity to meet Oprah Winfrey. So Kara and I dreamed big as we usually do, and we sent a letter. And amazingly enough, we actually got a response, and Oprah Winfrey herself was able to join us in our last book club meeting on December 15th. And she really shared her thoughts about writing the book and incorporating learnings from her own life. And the Georgia PAC was really able to share their takeaways from the book and have that amazing experience. And something Oprah said that still sticks with me is the fact that you all are here with the intention of growing into a better version of yourself by coming together in this community. I celebrate you all. I know how hard it is to continue to do the work on yourself. And it's true, it is so hard to continue doing the work yourself, but it's worth it. And I hope that the people on this call today will consider doing book clubs themselves to do work not only themselves, but help your community work with each other. And then if Oprah wasn't enough, we also have Perry come to the release of our guide, which was also amazing. And he actually shed tears about the work and from hearing from the members of the Georgia PAC that you all had the opportunity to hear from today. So it was really such an amazing experience. And something else that Oprah said while she was part of our meeting, she said, "My favorite part of the epilogue is the last sentence. And that is what happened to you can become not just your strength, but what happened to you can become your power." And that's something that's so true. Despite myself having a difficult past, I'm doing work that I truly care about and I hope is helping others and is spreading. So what happened to you really can become your superpower.
I totally agree, Chloe. And I think one of the greatest gifts that Dr. Perry and Oprah really gave us is a powerful piece of work that is powerful just in the book written form. But as we have shared a couple times throughout, the audio version is super powerful in and of itself with Dr. Perry and Oprah. Almost it feels like you're in a spot, just kind of like sitting in your living room with them as they talk and as they share. And so I encourage you, as you're thinking about how you can take this book and really start this happening in your communities, really look at how do we take the trauma? How do we take some of the most hardest experiences families, individuals have experienced and change them to our power for something good, something beautiful, just like this coloring page that can one day be filled with lots of color, lots of bright spots, and hopefully lots of connections, because that's what these book studies are really about. It's as much studying the book as it is the connections, the relationships that you're going to have as a result. In addition to the guide and all the wonderful resources that are contained within it, from the chapter summaries, the leveled questions, resources, I encourage you to think about what resources you know of in your community. This is a huge opportunity where you can lift and elevate some of those prevention resources that get so often unnoticed by families, or families just aren't aware. This would be an opportunity you can raise those up. Point out those solid strengths. Where are those concrete supports that families need, where us as individuals, we need, because the reality is we really need each other. One of the things that we did as we figured out book club is we knew we wanted this to spread. And so we really figured out that we needed to do some messaging, and we needed it, yes, to help announce that we're releasing this material, but Chloe and I wanted it to live long beyond. And so we have these kind of key themes that came up, and guess where we got these from? These came from the Georgia PAC, from them taking the time to fill out our survey and give us their feedback. And wow, did they do that? And they did it beautifully. And so what we learned on our journey together is that our earliest experiences truly do shape our lives. This guide that we created, you can chunk it, pull out pieces, whatever works for you. Well, this guide in particular divides it out over 11 sessions. And like, as you heard, the Georgia Reads one is a little bit more condensed. Take what works for you in your community. As you heard Erin say, don't feel like you're wedded to the questions worded exactly as they are. Word them the way that's right for the community, in a way that makes responding to them safe and comfortable. Because it's about personal reflection and growth as much as it is about connecting with others while you're on that journey. It's also really a spot and an opportunity, and I love this about Georgia with their campaign of You Belong, of reminding people that we matter and that we're worthy. I want you to sit with that for a second and think about, if you could sit and read a book, have that opportunity for that growth, but most importantly, to really know that you truly matter and you truly are worthy and you are a gift to your community. We don't often hear that. This is an opportunity where that can happen. It's also that opportunity where we can turn our trauma into power. We can take that hard, that sometimes unbearable stuff that we have gone through. As you heard the Georgia PAC share, there were nights where we came to tears. And we weren't talking through them. We literally were all just on a Zoom, crying in the same space together, sharing the emotion, the connection, and truly just being in what that felt like for each of us. But we were then able to turn it into power because we stressed the importance of hope. We stressed the importance of building our protective factors. We stressed the importance of normalizing mental health. We stress the importance of asking for help if we need it, just as Colleen did today. It also is important to acknowledge that healing happens with time, community, and support. One of the pieces as we continue to roll out these different trainings is there's going to be continued blog posts popping up on PACE's Connection. I shared mine with Carrie and Natalie last evening, and it just got posted. And in my blog post, I specifically tap into this because so often we think healing has to happen right after the trauma was experienced. That's not the reality. Sometimes that healing happens years, months, or sometimes a way long time, even beyond that, just so that a person can take the time to truly unpack, as Colleen talked about. And that unpacking isn't easy to do alone. And we do need community. We do need support. Book club and the book study is an opportunity for you all to help your communities to do that. And what I would say in terms of taking the first step today, you're doing it. You're here. You committed time to be with us. You are chatting in the chat. You are participating with our polls. You are engaged. You've done the first step. Check that off. Give yourself credit. Now you have to think about, what is that community that's on your heart right now? You heard Samantha as she was talking and sharing how she broadened it out. We were in book club and she was already, when's the guide being released? I got these people here and these people here. When is it coming? And so as she was dreaming what was on her heart, I think it's really important for you all to think of, what is the community on your heart? And that community may be specific. It could be a school community. It could be someone in first responding community, but it also could be just a broad community. For me, it would be my city of Auburn. You decide what that community is. And as you heard in the very beginning about the group agreements, that's what pulls you together. That's what makes you one strong community. You all have the power to do that. So one thing that I have learned, most importantly with this, because Chloe and I had achieved this like in a snap. These Georgia PAC folks, they had us going and dreaming, but we had to commit our awesome ideas to paper. And if we were in person, I'd give you some time to do that, but I don't. And plus, I want to be able to know what's in your brain. So we're going to use the chat. We got some questions for you to be thinking about. I'm wondering, because I'll be honest, I have not been watching the chat because I've been watching time, I've been watching slides. I got lots going on. I promise I am going back to it to read every single comment you have all dropped in there. But now I am going to open it to read, how are you thinking? And you can answer 3 questions. Maybe that's your goal. Maybe you're like, ooh, I really don't know what I'd say for that, but I know what I'd say for that. I want you to pick at least one. And I want you to take time to put in the chat your response to that question. So how do you feel that this book club experience could be used in your community? Remember, whatever one is on top of your mind, top of your heart, go ahead. Start dropping some notes in the chat. This is super important, you all. Second option, what resources or support might you need to make your ideas for book club happen? And no worries, Chloe and I have a little secret coming up after you do this. So that's why we need you typing in the chat. So that way we can get to the next fun part. Last but not least, what questions do you hope to have answered about leading your own book club? And here's a little teaser. We ask you that because we have additional trainings coming up, you all. It is not ending today. We still have more opportunities. You start dropping them in now. Chloe and I can come ultra prepared, so then you can come with your next big questions for us as we keep on connecting and building our community with you. So let's see. I see my chat is starting to pop up. I love it. Some of you are even numbering them. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's going so fast. This is the part that our partnership loves when we just watch it go. Boom, 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 boom. A new position, historical trauma, someone's emailing an executive director, affordable access to the books. Absolutely. Someone asked about teenagers. We're going to be hitting on that in our facilitator training. Normalizing women in treatment, connection and support in your yoga classes. Absolutely. How to create that safe forum. We're going to give you some strategies coming up in the next training. Other agencies to partner with. You all, I hope you saw today the power of real partnership coming together. Unity, learning from one another. The fact that the group is useful for anyone, involving physicians who haven't been trauma informed, parents of youth that you've worked with. Absolutely. Being culturally sensitive is huge. Community schools, wanting to tie it in. Look at this, social media, absolutely. And we are going to have a toolkit that is done. to start with your messaging, and then you can just branch it out for your community, making it specific. Ordering in bulk, we are going to work on figuring that question out, because that is one that our entire team has been working. How do we make this bigger? Would love the workbook for parenting classes. Exactly. And here's the one thing that I would tell you that I've learned from what Chloe and I have heard from other communities. Don't feel like you have to print the whole thing right away. Print off the chapter you're focused on. I've also learned you can print off just the coloring pages and drop those places as teasers to get people excited about doing a book study. Because they're gonna be like, what's this? What's this tied to? It's a good promotional thing, and it's a fun thing because families can do that together. Oh my goodness, look at you all. A women's group at the Red Cross. Target other organizations to help us get these books. Absolutely, build out our partnerships, right? On our teams. A panel available in the book study app. You can put together whatever additional resources you think could help complement the book study. I would say there's no right or wrong. There was one night where we did share some specific things just because that's what that night needed. So that is huge. You saw today how we brought in Colleen in an audio clip, finding ways to bring in the audio clips from the book or audios of other people and how book club has impacted them can be huge. Roger, I love it. One, that you're here, but two, that you said that it's a way to connect parents throughout the state. Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Roger is a friend. That's why I had to give him a special shout out. Would love resources for making it available for low income people. Tammy, a great tip for you. Most libraries, and this is a tidbit I learned from Chloe, is that libraries sometimes have it set up that you can print a couple of pages for free. And so that would be one thing. Work with your local libraries and see if they could set up something where either maybe they allow that to happen, so there's only a limited number of pages, and that people can work with the library to help do that with the computer. Another idea, you all, see if the library will print some copies and make them available to check them out. And they're there and like on a shelf next to the book. How cool would that be, right? Is it paperback yet? No, it is not. I know, paperback would be awesome. Google systems, and look at that. Natalie is dropping in the link to our next training coming up. So make sure that you are signed up for that. As you all are continuing to drop in all of these ideas, I want you to continue doing that. But Natalie's going to launch our final poll because we want to hear from all of you what would be helpful as we continue dreaming out for book club. What additional information? This poll, I'm going to tell you before you hit send, you can have more than one answer. So click any or all, totally up to you. You can have as many answers as you like. These are my favorite type of poll questions because sometimes on a thing like this, I can't pick one. So pick all that you love. What would be helpful? What would you love to know more about? What could be helpful? Oh my goodness, I see the little things are going like super, it's like a little machine. It's processing all these great pieces of information you're giving us. As you are continuing to do that, I am going to just let you know that one of the things that Chloe and I have is on the Alliance's website, a form for you to tell us if you're using our guide. And if you want to get connected to be able to hear from others who are hosting book study events or book club events. So I encourage you, check out our website. We have so many great resources there. You're going to see our friends, Erin, Samantha, and Colleen. They are now part of your family too. So you're going to be like, I know them. And you got to connect with them and hear from them about how important community was. So I encourage you to check that out. And most importantly, to really continue having that opportunity to sign up for all these other events. As I shared, our next one, it is going to be a dedicated time to just really talk about facilitating a book club. Because as you see from our poll results, you all are like, give us some training. We want things printer friendly if possible. We want to connect with others. And also we want additional information, more coloring pages. And I see there's 4 of you who said other. I hope you put in the chat because I really want to know what's your other thing that you're hoping for. It helps us as we're dreaming this out and continuing to build it out for all of you. Also, I encourage you sign in for the leader check-ins that we'll be doing. That's an opportunity to connect with others who are hosting these and with Chloe and I. Sign up to be with Maureen and our awesome training team from the Children's Trust Fund Alliance to really learn more about the protective factors and all the amazing resources the Alliance has tied to those. Many of them are free. You guys check them all out. There's so many. And then we do one final check-in with you all. So please sign up. Each of these is a separate registration. I know that sounds like a lot, but trust me, it is worth it. We want to see all of you. But most importantly, we hope that you got to feel a little bit of the heart that went into building out this work. And I encourage you to reach out to Chloe, myself, or our awesome executive director who took a chance on a really big dream and helped Chloe partner with our amazing graphic artist, Norma McReynolds, to put together this beautiful resource for communities. So please reach out if there's anything that we can do to help. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Carrie.
Thank you so much. Gosh, I mean, hard act to follow here, but y'all can see why Natalie Adaj from PACES Connection and I have been so grateful and thrilled to have this beautiful team of people together working on this powerful opportunity for you all to be really, truly ambassadors for conversations on trauma, resilience, and healing that come from this beautiful book that I love so much and wish that I had had it when I was a young single mother. Wow. So please register now for these upcoming events that Natalie's going to put the overall sheet with all the links in the chat. She's put them in the chat throughout. I think you can tell you're going to be supported in myriad ways if you start your own book study. So, you know, coast to coast, pull your people in. It doesn't have to be a geographic community. It can be any kind of community. So please take the leap of faith and connect and create community, and then consider turning that book club community into a community for PACES Connection, where you will be supported in ways you never even imagined could think possible. We offer so many educational opportunities. Now I'm going to go to the next slide and share. If you want to lead a book study, scan this QR code, or Natalie's going to put in the chat the Google form link. Fill out the Google form link. We'll get back in touch with you via email. We're going to email to you the link to this video and the video from Dr. Perry's wonderful session with us on the 28th, and links to all the different resources we mentioned throughout this powerful webinar. I still am just amazed at the times I have teared up during an educational webinar. What can I say? So I hope you've been able to capture that QR code. We'd love that. And then again, saying thank you to Dr. Perry, to our partners, hoping that you're going to lead your own book study. I believe Dr. Perry has been on this webinar the entire time. That is the kind of support he has offered to these endeavors of our building community, because he says healing happens in relationship, healing happens in community. I've watched it in the communities that I have helped start at PACES Connection. I think in the Southeast, we started probably about 130 different communities during the 4 years that I had that job before I moved into strategic partnerships, which these are great strategic partnerships. But having a community that you can turn to, that y'all are all working together to create a healthier, more compassionate environment for children, especially children in the foster care system, families in the foster care system, the DSS workers who are working with, so many different groups need the support. That's one that that really rings true for me for many, many reasons. And then finally, the last slide I'm going to share is we at Paces Connection know that if we don't track things, we won't get better. We would love to know from you how we could make this event better, future events better. So this is an event evaluation for our Paces Connection Connecting Communities One Book at a Time webinar. And if you would be willing to fill that out, we would be deeply grateful. It will help guide us in our work going forward and help us know what you need. You can tell us what you need from us to help do this. And then again, thank you for being with us today. I'm going to stop looking at my screen and come back to you all and see if y'all have any questions that you want to put in the chat. That maybe we've got about 5 minutes that we can, oh good grief, there's 69 new messages since I've been gone for about 5 minutes. Couldn't access the form to be a group leader. So there, Natalie says she's fixed the link for that. So
I hope I have. If not, we will definitely include it in future emails. So sorry.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like it is.
Yeah, Allison says it works now. So let's see. Any other? Oh, good. Jane Larson says she just found a home community. If you're wondering about whether or not there is a community in your area, a Paces Connection community, if you go to the Paces Connection website and look at the top of the website, and yeah, this is available for Canadians, Crystal Young. We have 2 or 3 communities in Canada, maybe more now, because we've got actually communities in 18 different countries, as well as almost every state. We have them in every state. So if you go to Paces Connection, across the top of the home screen, it says communities. You can click there, go to your state or your country and see if there's a community already there. Connect with them if you'd like, or create your own. And I think Regina Chowry, all the way from Zimbabwe, I know we have several communities in Africa, and there may be one in Africa as well. So I tell you what, if you'll do me a big old favor, whoever has got that spotlight capability, to take the spotlight off of me, and let's just all look at ourselves on this nice big screen right now. And I don't know if Dr. Perry's still with us or not, but if y'all know how to put that little heart up there on the screen, let's show a heart for all the wonderful speakers today, and for Dr. Perry for having the brilliance to say to Oprah, let's write this book together. And what a conversation of healing. I wish we could get this book into the hands of every leader in this country, every policymaker in this country, everybody who's got money in this country. Dr. Perry says that our big problem is that people with power don't want to share power. Y'all, we can, by building community, become strong enough to force people to share power with our votes. So please, if you want to start one of these book studies, we're here to support you. Thank you again, Dr. Perry. I took a picture of all of our hearts up on our pages, and maybe we'll share that with y'all in the letter as well. Let's see if there are any other questions, and if not, yeah, oh yes, Aaron Thomas, absolutely. Into the hands of recovering individuals. I've been in recovery for 28 years and have started many a meeting with the question, if y'all will close your eyes, I'm wondering how many of us grew up in a home where there was addiction or violence. And I, in fact, wrote a book about growing up in addiction and violence and how to do everything you can to not perpetuate that, to not pass that family heirloom onto your children. So at any rate, let's see. So the name of my book is called The Turnaround Mom. It was published by Health Communications, the folks who did Chicken Soup for the Soul. Some of you may be old enough to remember Chicken Soup for the Soul, but they published that book in 2000 and 2007. Golly, time flies. Time to do another one. So let's see. Any other last minute, any questions? Okay, I think y'all that we have gone full circle. And again, we're going to finish on time because we do have a commitment to honor people's time. But remember, y'all, there's another session coming up soon. When is the next session, Kara? The 26th.
The 27th, later this month. And the link is in the chat, and we'll make sure that you all have that as in a follow-up email. So be watching for that great follow-up email. Thank you for being here, and we hope to see you again really soon.
Yes, and this is a community, y'all. This is how a community gets started, because now I'm looking forward to seeing all of you on the 27th. Mwah. Peace. Thank you.